everyone. My name is Shahzad Khan, working in Nuclear School Jhabwa. We will teach you subject science. Today we will take chapter number 17, that is forest, our lifeline. Why we are discussing about forest? Because it is a main lifeline which help to develop each and everything in our surrounding. For starting the chapter, that is first visit to a forest. The forests serve as a green lungs and water purifying system in nature, as mentioned by Professor Ahmed. So this can be viewed, easily check out everywhere surrounding in you, that forest gives you a better life for respiration system, that is green lungs, for better oxygen, and water purifying system by these big tanks. Many other animals like boar, bison, jackal, porcupine, elephants live in the deeper areas of the forest. We see the next figure. Hearing a sudden sound of birds and some noise from the top branches of the trees, it was a normal phenomena there. Because of the human presence, some monkeys had climbed higher up on the trees where they disturb the birds. Animals often give this type of warning calls to alert the other animals. These things can be easily mentioned and checked by in the forest when you will visit to a forest or any zoo. Identify sal, teak, sable, shisham, neem, palas, kher, amla, bamboo, kashnar. Professor Ahmed pointed out that these trees are several other trees, shrubs, herbs and grass in the forest. The trees were also covered with different types of creepers and climbers. The sun was barely visible through the leaves of the trees, making it quite dark inside the forest. There are some certain photographs of the trees you can easily check out with the help of your textbooks, with the help of your parents and grandparents. You might have many wooden items on your list like plywood, fuel, wood, boxes, paper, matchsticks and furniture. Do you know that gum, oil, spices, fodder for animals and medicinal plants are also some of the products which we get from the forest. That's why we are getting it, that a forest is our main lifeline. Who would have planted these trees? Now question comes in our mind. As the Professor Ahmed replied for that in nature, a tree produces enough seeds, the forest floor provides favorable conditions for them to germinate and develop into seedlings and saplings. Some grows into trees. He added that branchy parts of a tree above the stem is known as the crown of the tree. Professor Ahmed asked children to look up and observe how the branches of the tall trees look like a roof over the other plants in the forest. He told them that this is called a canopy. We can check here different kinds of crowns of the other trees. List the characteristics of the trees that you observe, such as height, shape of the leaves, crown, flower and fruits. Also draw the crowns of some trees. Professor Ahmed pointed out that trees had crowns of different types and sizes. We can check in the figure. These had created different horizontal layers in the forest. These are known as understories. Figure 17.7 is this. Giant and tall trees constituted the top layer, followed by shrubs and tall grasses, and herbs formed the lowest layer. Would we see similar kind of trees in every forest? Asked by a bozo student. Professor Ahmed said no. Due to different climatic conditions, there are variations in the types of trees and other plants. The types of animals also differ from forest to forest. We can check here tall trees as the lowest bottom trees. They came across numerous insects, spiders, squirrels, ants and various other small animals on the bark of the trees, plant leaves and on decaying leaves of the forest flower. That is figure 18.8. They started making sketches of these creatures. The forest floor seemed dark colored and was covered with a layer of dead and decaying leaves, fruits, seeds, twigs and small herbs. The decaying matter was moist and warm. Children pick up various seeds and leaves for their collections. Walking on the dead leaf on the forest floor was like walking over a spongy carpet. This thing. Piley asked, there are so many trees here, also there are many forests like this. What difference will it make if we cut some trees for a factory? Very important question for our mind. Professor Ahmed said, you have read about autotrophs, heterotrophs and saprotrophs. You have learned how green plants produce food. All animals, whether herbivorous or carnivorous, depends ultimately on plants for their food. Organisms which feed on plants often get eaten by other organisms and so on. For example, grass is eaten by insect which in turn is taken by the frog. The frog is consumed by a snake. This is said to form a food chain. We can take here grass to insect to frog to snake to eagle. Many food chains can be found in the forest. All food chains are linked to each other. If any one food chain is disturbed, it affects other food chains. Every part of the forest is dependent on the other parts. If we remove one component, say trees, all other components would be affected. We can check here that all are will be attached with each other. In this picture, we can easily conclude about this. Professor Ahmed asked children to pick up leaves from the forest floor and observe them under a hand lens. They found tiny mushrooms over the decaying leaves. They also saw an army of tiny insects, millipedes, ants and beetles on them. They were wondering how these organisms live there. Professor Ahmed explained that apart from these animals which are easily seen, there are several organisms and microorganisms that live in the soil. Pali wondered what mushrooms and other microorganisms eat. Professor Ahmed replied that they feed upon the dead plant and animal tissues and convert them into a dark colored substance called humus. The microorganisms which convert the dead plants and animals to humus are known as decomposers. Mention this definition. These microorganisms plays an important role in the forest. Soon Paheli removed some dead leaves and discovered under them a layer of humus on forest floor. The presence of humus ensures that the nutrients of the dead plants and animals are released into the soil. From there, these nutrients are again absorbed by the roots of the living plants. What happens if an animal dies in the forest? Sheila asked. Tibu, children of Ukraine replied that dead animals become food and for vultures, crows, jackals and insects. In this way, the nutrients are cycled, so nothing goes waste in the forest. Paheli reminded Professor Ahmed that he had not explained why forests are called green lungs. The very first line in the very first slide, Professor Ahmed explained that plants release oxygen through the process of photosynthesis. The plants help to provide oxygen for animals' respiration. They also maintain the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Figure 17.10. That is why forests are called lungs. That is plants who generate O2 get by animals, and animals who generate CO2 that is getting by plants. So balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide can be easily maintained and checked by this diagram. The children saw cloud forming in the sky. Buzo recalled what he had learned about the water cycle in class 6th. Trees take in water from their roots and release water vapor into the air through evaporation. If there were fewer trees, how will the water cycle will be affected? Tivu again also then told them that the forest is not just home to plants and animals. Many people also live in the forest. Some of them may belong to different tribes. Tibu explained that these people depend mostly on the forest. The forest provides them with food, shelter, water, medicines. They have traditional knowledge about many medicinal plants in the forest. While Buzo was drinking water from a small stream, he saw some deer crossing the stream that is here. They disappeared into the bushes. The dense bushes and the tall grass provide animals with the food and the shelter. They also protect them from carnivores that live in the forest. Tivu then started looking closely at the forest floor. Soon he called and showed the children dropping off some animals and explained the difference between various types of droppings, that is, excretions of the animals. Professor Ahmed informed them that the forest officers could recognize the presence of some animals in the forest by their droppings and the footprints. Buzo called everyone and showed them a large decaying heap of animal dropping. Several beetles and grubs were feeding on the heap of a bunch, and a bunch of seedlings was sprouting. These seedlings are of the herbs and shrubs. The animals also dispersed the seeds of certain plants, help them the forest to grow and regenerate. The decaying animal dung also provides nutrients to the seedlings to grow, said by Professor Ahmed. We can check the example very well easily, as when we are getting a home, that time some kind of leaves will come out or sometimes seeds will come out because it will be mixed up with the sand which we are using to construct our house and floors. After listening to this, Buzo noted in his notebook, by harboring greater variety of plants, the forest provides greater opportunities for food and habitat for the herbivores. Larger number of herbivores means increased availability of food for a variety of carnivores. The wide variety of animals help the forest to regenerate and grow. Decomposers help in maintaining the supply of nutrients to the growing plants in the forest. Therefore, the forest is a dynamic living entity full of life and vitality. It was about afternoon and the children wanted to go back. Tibu suggested another route for going back. While they were going back, it started raining. However, surprisingly, they saw that the raindrops were not hitting the forest floor directly because the uppermost layer of the forest canopy intercepted the flow of raindrops and most of the water was coming down through the branches and the stems of the trees. From the leaves, it was dropping slowly over branches of the shrubs and herbs. In figure number 17.13, in next slide, they found that the ground was still dry. After about half an hour, the rain stops. They noticed that the layer of dead leaves over the forest floor appeared wet now, but water did not stagnate in the forest. Buzo thought that if it has rained so heavily in his town, it would have flooded the drains and the roads. What would happen if it rains heavily in your town? Professor Ahmed told them that the forest also acts as a natural absorber of rainwater and allow it to seep. It helps maintain the water table throughout the year. Forests not only help in controlling flood but also help in maintain the flow of water in the streams so that we get a steady supply of water. On the other hand, if trees are not present, rain hits the ground directly and may flood the area around it. Heavy rain may also damage the soil. Roots of the trees normally bind the soil together, but in their absence, the soil is washed away or eroded. You can check here, heavy rain is there. With the help of these large number of trees, they easily carrying the old drops on it. Then slowly it will be turned from these sections, we can check here, and seep into the ground, and the soils are remain at on its own places and never get to erosion from the original places. Professor Ahmed said that if we did things wisely, we could preserve forest and environment as well as have development. Children prepared a few pictures to show the consequences of such an event. At the end of the visit, Professor Ahmed asked children to sum up the importance of forest. The children wrote, forests provide us with oxygen, they protect soil and provide habitat to a large number of animals. Forests help in the bringing good rainfall in neighboring areas. They are a source of medicinal plants, timber and many other useful products. We must preserve our forest. We can check here, we are having the picture, 4 pictures are to be there. In these things we can check here, if we are using much more vehicles, it will pollute. First phase we are getting vehicles with the trees. In second phase we are getting the trees are to be cut, forest to be cut, but the vehicles are remain there and we locate new factories which create pollutions. After some time the forest will remain like this, in which less animals and less feedings will be there, and after a time no forest, then when we are getting rainfall we are getting with the flood areas to our neighboring areas. So this picture to be mentioned by the children who go to the forest with Professor Ahmed. If forests disappear, the amount of carbon dioxide in air will increase, resulting in the increase of earth temperature. In the absence of trees and plants, the animals will not get food and shelter. Third point, in the absence of trees, the soil will not hold water, which will cause flood. Fourth point, deforestation will endanger our life and environment. Think what we can do to preserve our forest. So I hope so that all these slides will easily clarify about the importance of forest in our daily life and the requirement of forest in our surrounding areas. If you are getting much more problem, please mention us so that we can redefine with new definitions with new examples. Thank you.